Good morning, Bookmark. My name is Abbey Yunupingu, and I'm a proud Yolngu woman from the Gumatj clan. I am proud to be standing here and representing my family. It is such an honour to have such a strong culture which we can share and celebrate during this weekend. And I hope that you have felt warmly welcomed. I welcome all of you here today to my country. I feel honoured that there are so many people from so many places here at Garma this weekend. Yesterday I shared my story with the youth forum about the hardship of navigating two worlds when I moved down south to boarding school for my secondary education. It was important and I am grateful for my education, but it was hard being away from family and community. I hope that Yolngu people in the future won't have to move far away for better education and opportunities. We want these opportunities here on our own country. Mr. Prime Minister, while you are Prime Minister, it is my hope that you take the time to listen to our needs and create opportunities for young people, not only Yolngu, but all Aboriginal children living in remote communities, because they are our future. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Prime Minister of Australia, Anthony Albanese. And then we walk down here.
Good morning, Bookmark. I acknowledge the people of the Yunupingu Nation, their elders, leaders and families who have made such an extraordinary contribution to Australia. In particular, I acknowledge the Gumatj clan, whose lands we are meeting on today. And because symbolism is important, I note that Jawa concluded his speech by calling for me as Prime Minister to be prepared to join his hand, which is outreached, and I do so now. I'm very proud to call Jawa my friend. Can I acknowledge so many of my colleagues who have travelled here as well? We could have a cabinet meeting down the front there. Minister McCarthy, of course. Today, above all, including myself as Minister for Indigenous Affairs. But Ministers Rowland, Plibersek, Clare, Watt, Ayres, Green, Luke Gosling, we have Dorinda Cox, Larissa Waters, we have Julian Lisa, I know has been here. We see Andrew G, who else is there? There's quite a few. Kate Cheney, and it is terrific to see such a large gathering. And I assure you that each and every one of them isn't just there to get away from Canberra that's inflicted me with a terrible cold and flu like the rest of Canberra at the moment. We are here to show our ongoing commitment. And importantly as well, as Jawa said, last year there were, of course, tears about the referendum result. But I hope that the presence of such a large delegation from my government is an indication that we have doubled down on our determination to make a difference and find a path forward. Not as government acting unilaterally, but importantly, forums like this are about engagement directly with First Nations people. And the role of the Yolngu people has been so pivotal, as Jawa said, in land rights, in native title. And when people come into my temporary home at the lodge, the first thing that they see in the entry there is the Yadaki, presented to me by GY here at the time when he asked me, was I serious about fulfilling a commitment that had been given for some time before, going back more than a decade, to actually put constitutional recognition in the form requested under the Uluru Statement from the Heart to the Australian people. So it is an honour to be back here at Gama for a fourth time as Prime Minister, but we were trying to work out with Denise and co, I think it's visit 8 or 9 to Gama. And I commit here that every single year that I have the great honour to be Australia's Prime Minister, I will be here and engaged with you, because this is a journey that has a long way to go. I'm particularly pleased to be here to celebrate 25 years of success. From humble beginnings, Gama has grown and transformed beyond even the extraordinary vision and imagination of its founders. But the generous, egalitarian and welcoming spirit of those early days is as strong and proud and warm as ever. I grew up in a part of Australia very, very different from where we stand, more concrete than grass. Yet, like so many others here, when I come to Gama, I feel at home. There is something universal in the joy of children performing their first bungal, the pride of their families watching on, and people from all backgrounds and walks of life gathered to learn side by side, celebrating the unique privilege that we have as Australians to share this great continent of ours with the world's oldest continuous culture. Each of us enriched by the presence of 60,000 years of art, ceremony, knowledge, and unbroken love of country. Gama teaches us, it inspires us, and it challenges us, because this is a place for ideas, a place for ambition, and also a place for accountability, where we learn from the past, are honest about the present, and look up to the future. This gathering was brought forth in hope, and that hope endures, because the hope that Gama draws on and offers is not a passive emotion. It is not the hope that waits for something to turn up or someone else to fix it. The hope Gama gives us is deeper and stronger than any of that. It is light and heat. It is the fire of purpose and urgency, an optimism and determination driven by the understanding that real and lasting change is not just possible, it is vital. That is why when I came here last year, I outlined our government's commitment to a new way forward, putting a new focus on economic empowerment, recognising, as Jawa has repeated today, that Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people are economic beings, workers and small business owners and entrepreneurs who make a significant contribution to Australia's national economy and our international trade. We want to build on that strength and grow beyond it. That is why Minister McCarthy and Senators Jana Stewart and Dorinda Cox are consulting with First Nations businesses to help inform the discussions at the round table we're convening in Canberra later this month. Our government also wants to work with communities as economic decision makers to unlock the true potential of their land and their endeavour, beyond passing transactions to lasting partnerships that create and share wealth. This depends on seizing and owning the opportunities of clean energy and critical minerals in this decade, embracing projects and industries that can power long-term prosperity, delivering the economic sovereignty that is fundamental to self-determination, and securing the future of community-controlled organisations. My apologies. I always wanted to have a voice like Jason Clare. This new approach requires new partnership. Today we bring it into being. Today I announce the First Nations Economic Empowerment Alliance, the coalition of peaks in our government have developed that have established a new economic partnership. This builds on our commitment to the Closing the Gap agreement, to its call for a new way of doing business and to the principles of shared decision making. Working with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people right around our nation to boost skills and education, to create jobs and back business. Empowering traditional owners to advocate for infrastructure, housing and energy projects on their land, to strengthen their communities and to build up their equity beyond the land itself. Having the confidence and the capability to deal with state and territory governments, and critically, to engage with business and the private sector as well. Partnering with private capital and institutional investors from the outset, so companies and communities can come to government as partners, putting forward projects that are ready to go. These principles of community benefit are at the centre of our Future Made in Australia agenda and our energy policy. Today we are opening up $70 million in funding to help get First Nations clean energy projects up and running. This is about renewable energy generating good jobs in regional and remote Australia and making sure that people in some of the sunniest places on the continent and indeed the world don't have to rely on diesel generators to light and power their homes. We've made a start, but there is much more to do. We must end the stalemate that arises when native title organisations with little in the way of back of house or legal or commercial expertise are expected to negotiate with multinational companies. This is why the first priority for our new economic partnership will be to reform the funding model for prescribed bodies corporate so that it delivers meaningful participation for communities and timely decision making for investors. Today I announce our government will provide $75 million in additional funding to support native title holders to secure better deals, drive faster approvals and deliver a real and lasting economic legacy for communities. This is the tone and the standard we want this partnership to set from the very start. Pragmatic action that brings economic development, ownership and equity to communities, not doubling up on advice or getting in the way of processes that are working, but cutting through confusion and delay with new focus and new momentum. This partnership is also about government making better use of the capital and equity in special investment vehicles, such as the Northern Australia Infrastructure Fund and the Australian Renewable Energy Agency, as well as enhancing the work of Indigenous Business Australia and the Indigenous Land and Sea Corporation. So communities across Australia, whether native title holders or not, can draw on their knowledge and aspiration to create jobs and build equity. All of this driving to delivery. Delivery is our government's defining priority, repaying the trust that people have placed in us by delivering the commitments that Australians voted for on the 3rd of May. This is what Australians expect and deserve from their government. That accountability, that duty of delivery is every bit as important and relevant here in East Arnhem as it is in Western Sydney, because the policy agenda that our government took to the election was for all Australians, including First Nations people, boosting wages, cutting taxes and protecting penalty rates means Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people earn more and keep more of what they earn. We're investing in bulk billing, expanding mental health services, opening new urgent care clinics and cutting the costs of medicines to strengthen Medicare everywhere. We're building new childcare centres where they are needed most, delivering fair funding for every government school in every state and territory, making free TAFE permanent nationwide, cutting student debt by 20% and opening up new university hubs in the regions and outer suburbs, because we know that education opens that door of opportunity for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander students. Of course, there are other areas that demand a different, dedicated approach. This week's report from the Productivity Commission underlined that. The challenges may be different, but few of them are new or unknown. Most are old and far too familiar. Yet too many years and too many words have been spent seeking new ways to describe old difficulties, or worse, looking to manage expectations and moderate ambitions. So at the beginning of our second term, let me make this crystal clear. Reports and reviews have their place, but they are not a substitute for outcomes, for results. Creating a process matters, but is not the same thing as making progress. Delivery is the standard by which all of us must measure ourselves across every level of government, in the public service and in organisations and services entrusted by community. This is what drives me. It's what drives Minister McCarthy, our Special Envoy for Remote Communities, Marion Scrimgeour, and every one of our colleagues. Investing in what works, ownership, partnership, empowerment, building trust, working together to close the gap so more children are born healthy, more young people grow up with opportunity, more women live in security, and Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people everywhere have a foundation on which they can build a good life for themselves and their families. That is why we promised to abolish the failed CDP and replace it with real jobs, with proper wages and decent conditions. And on the 31st of October, the CDP will be gone for good nationwide. Already, the first round of our Remote Jobs and Economic Development Program has delivered 650 new jobs. Today I announce the second round will deliver another 800 jobs in 160 projects. We promise to train an additional 500 First Nations health workers. All 500 are now enrolled and 140 have already graduated. The next generation of Indigenous health workers and community care officers. Last year, our government made a generational investment in remote housing in the Northern Territory. Since 2022, 685 new homes have been completed, and our 10-year agreement is delivering up to 2,700 homes here in the Northern Territory, tackling overcrowding and creating local jobs. And in the years ahead, we can pick up the pace of construction. In February this year, we promised new action to cut the cost of 30 household staples for families in remote communities and to strengthen the supply chains that bring these essential goods to community stores. Today, in Wilcannia and Kintore, on Croker Island, in 76 community stores right across Australia, the price of everything from flour and tea to tinned fruit and toothpaste is down significantly. In the year ahead, we're going to expand this program to 152 stores. For as long as Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people have loved and cared for this great continent, they have known that water is life. Yet when we came to government in 2022, so many people in remote communities across Australia did not have access to safe, clean or reliable drinking water. we've been working side by side with locals to change this. 33 remote water projects are on track to bring clean and reliable water to 25,000 people. 3 years ago, in places like Warburton and Jigalong, the water was unfit to drink. Soon it will be clean enough not just to drink, but to deliver dialysis on country. This is transformative for communities and for homelands, which is why we will be funding another 6 remote water projects, delivering for a further 9,000 people, including right here on the Gove Peninsula, with overdue upgrades at Gulkula. Across our cities and regions, more than 40,000 Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander students have enrolled in free TAFE. Our government wants people in remote communities around our nation to have access to the life-changing benefits of vocational education and training. Today I announce we will fund and deliver a new program, Mobile TAFE, utes and trailers that will enable teachers to take skills on the road and train the next generation of mechanics, carpenters, plumbers and workers in the Aboriginal community-controlled sector. We will provide $31 million to deliver this mobile training in partnership with community-controlled organisations and states and territories. So that instead of communities relying on drive-in, drive-out workers to build and maintain the new homes we're delivering, or to deliver vital health care in the 95 centres we're upgrading, locals get that training. And instead of people having to move away from home to prepare for a career in mining or agriculture, construction or the care economy, we'll bring the skills and jobs to communities. Hands-on training on country. This is what productivity looks like. This is what government responding to needs on country looks like. This is all about tangible, meaningful change in remote communities so that people can have a secure roof over their head, so they can put food on the table, so they can trust water from the tap, so they can get help if their child is sick, so they can learn a trade, gain a qualification, know the dignity that comes with hard work for fair pay, back themselves to start a small business or build wealth from a lasting stake in a big project. The positive impact of these programs reaches far beyond the families and communities whose lives they change. Every example of delivery, every one of these success stories reminds us that progress is possible. Delivery is about repaying trust, but it's also about building it, pushing back against those who only ever talk in terms of cost or waste or problems without solutions. Those who choose the cheap politics of division over the patient work of lasting change, or who seek to turn the grace and generosity of a welcome to country or what flag you stand in front of into a political weapon. Culture wars are a dry gully. They offer us nothing and they lead us nowhere. The way forward is to invest in Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, trust in their aspirations and draw from their knowledge. Because when we lay these strong foundations together, there is no limit to what we can build together. I know there are members of the Yuruk Justice Commission here at Gama this weekend. Their commission has spent the last 4 years recording the testimony of thousands of people across Victoria, reflecting on the wrongs of the past sharing the pain their families and ancestors suffered as a result of dispossession and discrimination, policies and practices built on exclusion. By neglect and by design, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people were cut off from the nourishment of culture and country, from the fullness of their history, the wealth of their land and waters, from their rightful equal place in our economy and society, from the justice and the opportunity that every Australian deserves, and from the dreams and aspirations that every parent holds for their child. As a nation, we are still coming to terms with the full truth and toll of this exclusion. Even as we continue on the long journey of understanding our past, we must meet our responsibility to the future. We must seize and harness the power of inclusion, the sense of belonging that comes from having a stake in the economy, being embraced by society and equal in the law of the land. GY once said, "The key to any Yolngu person's future is finding a part to play." He said, to be dedicated to that work, to feed a child's brain with knowledge, to arm that child with the tools for life, to make a home, to feed your family. That is a universal and enduring truth, a rock that stands against time. For Yolngu, for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, and for all Australians, for what we have in common. Excuse me. Serving as your Prime Minister is the great honour of my life, and the privilege of government is the chance to serve this nation and to change it, to leave it for the better. That is a privilege that belongs, of course, to every Australian, because part of what makes this the best nation on earth is that each and every one of us recognise our collective responsibility to make it even better. Our collective responsibility and our shared opportunity. Because when we broaden the circle of Australian fairness and deepen the meaning of Australian social justice, we're stronger for it. When we include more people in the opportunities of our economy and the promise of our society, we are better for it. When we embrace the fullness of our history and culture, we are richer for it. When we draw on the genius and creativity, the courage and resilience, the compassion and love of country that Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people live every day, we are smarter and braver for it. That is why closing the gap is a challenge that all of us must meet. And economic empowerment is an opportunity that all of us must seize. This is a chance to mobilise the talent and wisdom and vision of every part of our country to fulfil our national potential by ensuring every citizen has a real and equal chance to realise their potential. For Australia to be our best by ensuring that every Australian has the opportunity to be their best. I said earlier that coming to Gama feels like coming home. Every year when the time comes to leave, I always go with my determination renewed. And while the red dirt comes off your shoes, the inspiration that this place provides never leaves you. This year, Gama is dedicated to standing firm. It's on the lectern here in front of us. The government I lead is proud to stand firm with you, Jawa, with Yunupingu people, but also with those people, whether First Nations people, or those of us, the Ballender who've come here as well, to be with you out of commitment to First Nations justice, but also out of commitment to our country, because we'll all be better. We'll all be better when we're more equal, when opportunity is shared, enriches all of us, lifts us all up as well. So I look forward to continuing to work with you. I thank the Australian people for giving us the opportunity to provide our bit in walking with you side by side to the better future that we're committed to. Thank you.